when my CEO wife, Victoria Ashworth, learned I had willingly given the multi-million-dollar project to her favorite little assistant, Ethan Carter. She thought the 3 months she'd been giving me the cold shoulder had finally worked. Beaming, she suggested we go to Iceland for our honeymoon. But when Ethan heard, he flew into a jealous rage, threatening to resign. Victoria, who always doted on him, panicked. After coaxing him for 3 days and nights, she used a business trip as an excuse to ditch our honeymoon again, giving the other ticket to him instead. Afterward, she casually explained it away. Romance and personal feelings are trivial matters. Work is what's most important. As the boss, I have to put the company first. And you're my husband. Surely you understand. I stared at the picture Ethan had just posted on his social media feed, the two of them, heads together, making a heart shape like a couple, and said nothing, merely nodding. Victoria, satisfied that I had become understanding and mature, declared she would make it up to me with an even more romantic honeymoon trip after she returned. But she didn't know. I had already submitted my resignation, and she had already signed the divorce papers. There was no more us, no more later. The day after Victoria and her assistant Ethan left for their honeymoon, I completed all my work handovers and went through the resignation process with HR. Less than 10 minutes later, I received the notification Victoria Ashworth had approved it. Looks like CEO Ashworth wanted him out for a while now. Good thing he's self-aware, a colleague sniped. Yeah, staying would just annoy her. Better to leave sooner rather than later. Wonder what he'll do now, though. Why should we worry about him, us making barely above minimum wage? He's still the CEO's husband. Even if he quits and does nothing, he'll have more money than he can spend. As I packed my things, my colleagues watched me with poorly concealed envy, making jokes at my expense. I was used to it. Everyone knew Ethan and I didn't get along. Victoria, my wife, clearly favored Ethan, often publicly humiliating me for his sake. Because of this, they scrambled to target me, hoping to curry favor with a little assistant. The thought brought a cold smile to my lips. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm leaving for another company. They offered me double the salary, and the benefits are much better than here. Ignoring their faces green with envy, I picked up my box of personal belongings and walked out of the company. Just as I stepped outside, my phone rang. It was Victoria. I was still thinking about how to explain my resignation when I answered. "I've sent you a file," Victoria said. "I'll get it done and send it back to me within the hour." So she still didn't know I'd resigned. I almost laughed. I opened the file. It was the project I had recently handed over to Ethan. Same old story. Ethan got the credit and glory. I did the work, and when problems arose, I took the blame. I had refused initially, but Victoria had persuaded me relentlessly. When I stood firm, she gave me the silent treatment and pretended to work late into the night herself. I couldn't bear to see her exhausted, so I eventually took over. I used to think that one day Victoria would understand my efforts and intentions. But this time, when she fought bitterly with me for 3 months, demanding I give the multi-million-dollar project which I had secured after a month of grueling work to Ethan just so he could get promoted, my heart finally died. Even when I was hospitalized with a 104-degree fever, she refused to even visit me. "I'm not at the office," I replied calmly. "Not at the office?" Victoria's voice turned sharp. "It's working hours right now, isn't it, Sincere? Don't you know leaving your post without authorization is grounds for docking a day's pay according to company policy?" "No, but I've already—" Just as I was about to tell her I'd resigned, Ethan's gentle voice came through the phone. "Victoria, if Sincere doesn't want to do it, don't force him. I can handle it." "Absolutely not. You worked so late yesterday, you need to rest today." Victoria's tone was warm, a stark contrast to how she'd just spoken to me. Ethan was still protesting that he wasn't tired, but Victoria was firm. "I'm the boss. Telling you to rest is an order. Are you going to disobey?" Ethan chuckled softly, So I just feel bad making Sincere do all the work. So can his workload compare to yours? You were traveling for business and still had to sort out contracts while he does nothing at the office all day. And besides, he's my husband. Isn't it expected that he should work a little harder? Victoria scoffed. With one sentence, she erased all my contributions. I no longer felt the initial anger, jealousy, or despair, just numbness. It had happened too many times. Seeing my silence, Victoria assumed I'd agreed, and her tone softened slightly. Sincere, do you really think I'm just giving you work? I'm trying to train you. After all, you're my husband. You should show more responsibility and drive for the company. Anthony should learn from Ethan. He worked until 4 a.m. yesterday. I've never seen someone so young and so talented work so hard. Ethan chimed in. Yes, I think Sincere is very capable too. His words were complimentary, but his tone dripped with disdain. Victoria didn't notice. She scoffed again. Oh, if he were half as capable as you, I'd be laughing in my sleep. Don't forget, you completed all the projects this year. They were putting on a performance. I didn't say anything, didn't want to argue. Ethan had snatched every project this year from me. Victoria knew it perfectly well, but pretended otherwise. She probably figured that after 5 years of marriage, I wouldn't divorce her over such trivial matters. All right, Ethan and I have a business dinner later. Finish this quickly and send it over. Without waiting for my reply, Victoria hung up. Not 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed twice. A new social media update from Ethan. A picture showed them seated before a lavish candlelight dinner. Victoria's head was playfully tilted towards Ethan's shoulder. In front of Ethan sat an exquisite gift box, small enough to hold only a ring. I scrolled down further and saw Ethan's post from the previous night. At 4 a.m., he and Victoria were having a great time drinking at a bar. So, the tea hard work Victoria mentioned was drinking, and the business dinner later was actually a date. I let out a humorless laugh, not bothering to confront Victoria. It was pointless. She always had excuses. Even if I cornered her, I wouldn't get an apology or remorse, just endless silent treatment. And then I'd have to be the one coaxing her back. Thinking about it now, I'd be better off putting that energy into making money. Feelings change, but money never betrays you. With that thought, I left the company building behind, contemplating my departure. Just as my car left the parking lot, my phone pinged twice, payment notifications. Victoria charged another $20,000 to my card. 2. Everyone assumed I was with Victoria for her money. But the truth was, she controlled my finances. She claimed her own money needed to be reinvested in the company, so for years, all our household expenses were paid from my salary and side income. I believed a man should contribute more financially to the family, so I never argued about it. Until recently, I realized that despite my high income, I had no savings and was constantly short on cash. Unable to ignore it any longer, I checked the detailed statements. That's when I discovered Victoria frequently used my card to buy gifts for Ethan. She'd bought him $1,000 gaming consoles, suits worth tens of thousands, and even spent over $100,000 booking a 5-star hotel for his birthday party. Meanwhile, over the years, she wouldn't even buy me new underwear when mine were worn out after 2 months. Any gift over $100 was deemed too expensive. She'd just scribble a note on a card, claiming she needed to save money for our future. When I finally confronted her about it, Victoria's face darkened. She accused me of not trusting her, gave me the cold shoulder, and declared she would never use another cent of my money. Thinking of this, I called Victoria. I tried over a dozen times, but she didn't answer. Giving up, I drove straight to the bank and reported my card lost, effectively freezing it. Less than a minute later, Victoria called back. Sorry, I was busy just now and missed your calls. What's up? She asked, feigning innocence. My voice was calm. It's nothing anymore. Pedro, there's a problem with your card. It's been frozen, she said. I know, I admitted directly, and I stopped it. And why would you freeze the card for no reason? Have you got nothing better to do? And let's just say I did. Besides, didn't you say you wouldn't use my card anymore? Victoria faltered. I had never quibbled about money with her before. Shortly after the company was founded, I fell seriously ill and needed $100,000 for surgery. Just then, she secretly invested all our money into a project and lost every penny. She thought I would be furious and apologized with red, teary eyes. But I simply comforted her, told her money was secondary, and that my funds were always hers to use first. I thought sincerity would be met with sincerity, strengthening our bond. I never expected it would only make her more recklessly entitled. But Victoria didn't seem to dwell on it. After a brief silence, she sighed. "All right, I know. You're still mad at me for not going on the honeymoon with you, so you're acting out. Sincere Clark. And here I thought you'd grown up. Turns out you're still so petty. I promise you, after this trip I'll drop everything and go on that honeymoon with you. Okay? So didn't bring my cards this time. Go unfreeze yours now. Stop being difficult. This meeting later is really important. So, I'll give you 10 minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to get angry." As if afraid I wouldn't comply, Victoria added a threat before hanging up. Whenever she said she was angry, I used to immediately do as she asked. But she never seemed to realize it wasn't her anger I feared. I just felt she was already stressed from running the company and didn't want to add to her worries. Now I understand. I tried my best to lighten her load, but she always brought trouble upon herself. In that case, why should I meddle? If you didn't bring a bank card, you can ask your secretary, or you can ask Ethan. This trip was supposedly for his project anyway. It wouldn't be unreasonable for him to cover the costs. After sending the message, I turned off my phone and drove straight home to pack. I had bought the house outright, in cash, the layout and floor she liked. I'd initially wanted to put her name on the deed too, but a flicker of intuition made me put it solely in my name. Looking back, I'm incredibly grateful I left myself that escape route. After packing, I listed the house with a real estate agent. The next day, I went to the city registry office and submitted the divorce agreement I had already signed. When I first signed it, I was still wondering how to break it to Victoria. But at that moment, she was frantically grabbing her luggage to leave, barely glanced at the document, flipped to the last page, and signed her name. "Want you should read it first," I had said, holding on to a sliver of hope. "Oh, no need. You're my husband, wouldn't I trust you?" A bitter smile touched my lips. Her trust in me lately hadn't even matched her trust in Ethan. This so-called trust was just her wanting to get rid of me quickly so she could rush off to her honeymoon with Ethan. Well, at least it saved me the trouble of explaining. However, after submitting the papers, the clerk informed me they still needed verbal confirmation from her that the relationship had irretrievably broken down before finalizing the divorce. I showed them photos of Victoria and Ethan looking intimate, even the picture of our smashed wedding photo that she broke in anger over Ethan. Still, the clerk shook their head. We'll need her personal confirmation. Resigned, I turned my phone back on. As soon as it booted up, numerous missed calls and unread messages from Victoria flooded the screen. Because I hadn't unfrozen the bank card, she had tried everything from pleading to cajoling. The last message was a tirade tearing into me and threatening divorce. I showed the messages to the clerk. They still shook their head. Left with no choice, I dialed her number. It rang for a long time before she picked up. "Victoria, our relationship." "What relationship? Whatever you say now is useless. I'm divorcing you." Assuming I was calling to appease her like before, Victoria cut me off coldly. Then she hung up. The clerk finally believed me, looking at me with sympathetic eyes. They accepted the documents and told me the divorce certificate would be issued in a month. I knew Victoria's talk of divorce wasn't genuine. It was just a threat. Whenever I upset her in the past, she often said it. It was always me who couldn't bear it, who groveled, apologized, and agreed to all her demands to dissuade her. She was certain I didn't want a divorce, making it her ultimate weapon, believing she could get whatever she wanted by threatening it. but she seemed to have forgotten that love is like money in a savings account. If you only make withdrawals and never deposits, eventually, it runs out. Because I listed the house at a very competitive price, it sold smoothly in less than a week. I went to the agent's office, signed the contract, set a closing date with the buyer, and returned home. But as I pushed open the door, I heard laughter from inside. 3. The matching couple's slippers in the entryway were gone. In their place were a pair of men's leather shoes and the high heels Ethan had given Victoria for her birthday, her favorite pair. I realized Victoria and Ethan were inside. Weren't they supposed to be back in 2 days? Just then, Ethan heard the noise and came over. He was wearing my slippers, dressed in my bathrobe, lounging casually, as if he owned the place. "Sincere, why are you back at this hour? Isn't the workday over yet?" As he spoke, he deliberately flicked cigarette ash into a nearby mug. I recognized it. It was one of the matching mugs Victoria had given me. I used to cherish it, holding it often. Now Victoria walked out from the living room. Seeing Ethan using my mug as an ashtray, she pretended not to notice. The same woman who used to gag at the smell of smoke and demanded I quit smoking now showed no discomfort at all. She really had changed during her time with Ethan. Seeing me, her expression flickered with complexity for a moment. Then it darkened. "Skipping work again?" And Sincere Clark. "Even if you are my husband, you can't keep doing this. Then this is a company, not our home. If you don't follow the rules, how am I supposed to manage everyone else?" "Rules?" I almost laughed. When it came to breaking rules, who could compare to Victoria Ashworth? A year ago, just as the company was getting established, Victoria brought Ethan, who had zero industry experience, directly into a management position. Though puzzled, I accepted it when Victoria insisted Ethan had great potential, and I diligently tried to mentor him. But Ethan spent his days either playing games or sleeping. He'd dawdle through work hours, then deliberately stay late, posting a picture of himself at working overtime in the company group chat around midnight. I reported this to Victoria, but she dismissed it, suggesting maybe he was just relaxing with a game after working hard. I asked her to monitor him. She said she had no time. I suggested installing cameras. She said it was illegal. Later, projects started failing one after another, costing millions. Ethan continued his ways. When I finally couldn't take it anymore and wanted to fire him, Victoria vehemently opposed it. Finally, she asked me, "Are you just jealous? Afraid Ethan is too talented and will surpass you?" So Ethan stayed. He proceeded to steal clients and projects that were mine. Victoria saw it happening but turned a deaf ear, instead praising Ethan as an outstanding employee and painting me as the jealous colleague, a negative example. It used to hurt, but thinking about it now, with the resilience I showed then, I probably wouldn't be in such a sorry state if I had worked for any other company. I remained silent. Ethan gently patted her back and coaxed softly, "Maybe Sincere knew you were back and rushed home specially to see you." Victoria clearly believed him, her expression turning smug. "Fine. Just don't let it happen again. But how did you know I was returning today?" Ethan chuckled. "Did you forget, Victoria?" HR bought the return tickets. They probably told Sincere. Victoria huffed. "Sincere Clark, you waste your energy on gossip instead of focusing on your work. But don't think this means I forgive you." And you threw a tantrum and froze the bank card, embarrassing me in front of our partners. In the end, it was Ethan who had to run around begging people to borrow money to cover the expenses. Seeing my continued silence, Victoria assumed I was reflecting on my actions as usual, and her tone softened slightly. "It's not impossible for me to forgive you. But first, we need to compensate Ethan properly. An apartment he's renting is being renovated right now, so he can't live there temporarily. Let him use this bedroom for a while, and I'll drop the matter." I shook my head. "But I've already sold this house." "Sold it?" Victoria's eyes widened. Before she could ask, Ethan interjected, "On Sincere planning to sell this house to buy a bigger one to apologize to you?" Victoria thought that made sense, and her face lit up. Untrue. We've lived here quite a while. It's time for a bigger place. I'll contribute some money. For now, don't sell this one. Ethan can use it. Oh, I couldn't possibly, Ethan demurred. How much is the rent? I'll pay the market rate. What rent? Victoria's face fell. I'm your boss. How could I let you pay rent? That wouldn't be right. No, I must pay rent. Fine, just a few $100s then. They went back and forth, Victoria acting nonchalant about the rent. This house was downtown. Market rent was close to $10,000 a month. Yet she acted like it was nothing. But when we went on dates, she meticulously split every expense for dinner and movies down to the last cent. The difference between being loved and not loved was stark indeed. So, if you agree, I can reconsider the divorce. No need to reconsider, and how could I not? If I forgive you so easily, you won't learn your lesson. What if you fall back into your bad habits? Victoria interrupted me, still thinking I wanted her to drop the divorce idea. Ethan giggled beside her. Victoria has a point, but please, for my sake, forgive Sincere. And besides, you two have been married for so many years. It would be such a shame to divorce now. Victoria pretended to ponder. Ethan then physically started gently shaking her arm, pleading playfully. Victoria protested, "Stop messing around," but her face bloomed into a wide smile. "All right, fine." She finally looked back at me, satisfied. "Since Ethan is speaking up for you too, I'll forgive you this once. No, you should really thank Ethan. After how you treated him, he's still willing to help you out, holding no grudges. Anyway, about the divorce this time, Kinsiu misunderstood." Before she could finish, I cut her off calmly, holding the divorce agreement out to her. "What I mean is me are already divorced." The smile froze on Victoria's lips. "What do you mean? You want to divorce me?" Her reaction wasn't the happiness I had imagined. Surprisingly, there was even a flicker of anger. Ethan only paused for a second, a flash of delight crossing his eyes before he masked it with a chiding tone. "Sincere, why are you being so stubborn?" When Victoria mentioned divorce earlier, she just wanted you to comfort her, not actually divorce her. "And say quick, take back the divorce papers. Stop messing around. Victoria's worked so hard and just got back, don't upset her." He sounded like he was defending me, but I knew he was deliberately provoking Victoria. He'd used this tactic many times, and it always worked. In the past, Victoria had demoted me in a fit of pique, docked my salary for 2 months in another. I expected Victoria to accept the divorce in another fit of anger. But instead, her face hardened. After a long moment, she said, "Sen, I won't divorce you. Sincere Clark, our interests are deeply intertwined now." Hearing this, I finally understood her concern. It was about the division of assets. But she seemed to forget that when we married, she had insisted on a prenuptial agreement stipulating I wouldn't get a penny of her assets upon divorce. Likewise, she wouldn't get any of my premarital assets. I cut her off calmly, reminding her of that agreement. "And you might have misunderstood. I said, we are already divorced. You signed this agreement a while ago." Victoria looked stunned, then immediately denied it. Impossible. How could I not remember? Seeing she wouldn't believe it until faced with undeniable proof, I flipped to the last page, showing her hastily scrawled signature. Perhaps recognition dawned, because Victoria's face gradually turned deathly pale. "That paper you had me sign was a divorce agreement?" She stared at me, eyes wide with shock. I nodded. I watched as Victoria's complexion worsened. But isn't divorce what she supposedly wanted? Why this reaction now? I couldn't believe she hadn't genuinely considered divorcing me. Time ticked by. I thought she'd take this opportunity to agree gracefully. But instead, after a few minutes, she snatched the papers and violently tore them into shreds. "And I will not divorce you." Her tone was resolute. Her actions baffled me. But they also struck me as incredibly amusing. Untearing it up won't help. The registry office has already processed it. The divorce certificate will be issued soon. Hearing that the divorce was imminent, Ethan's smile grew wider, though his words feigned regret. "Oh dear, Sincere, why are you being so impulsive? In seeing this, I really feel sorry for Victoria. If I had such a wonderful girlfriend like her, I would never dream of divorcing." "Shut up." Before Ethan could finish, Victoria, completely out of character, snapped viciously at him. 5. Ethan froze, his expression utterly bewildered, as if he couldn't believe his ears. Understandable. Victoria had always spoken to Ethan in gentle tones, never a harsh word, terrified of upsetting him. Such hostility, even I was taken aback. Perhaps realizing she'd overreacted, Victoria composed herself and spoke calmly to Ethan. "So what's between us is none of your business. Since you have nothing else to do, you should leave." Ethan resisted. "Victoria, did you forget? My rented place isn't livable right now. If you can't stay there, go to a hotel. You're a grown man, can't you solve your own problems? And do you expect me to conjure an apartment out of thin air for you?" Victoria's tone was uncharacteristically harsh, but I noticed her subtly give Ethan a look. She thought she was being discreet, unaware that I already knew she had secretly bought a small house in the suburbs. Ethan clearly understood her signal. Pouting in mock grievance, he surreptitiously fished a key from the pocket of her coat hanging on the rack, then walked out. I didn't expose their secret arrangement. I no longer cared about them. Besides, revealing it wouldn't change anything. That house was legally Victoria's. Who she gave it to was her business. After he left, Victoria sighed. When she looked at me again, her tone had softened considerably. "Are you satisfied now? And no, you don't really want to divorce me. You're just upset because I was getting too close to Ethan. But there's nothing between him and me. I just felt sorry for him, alone in this city. As his boss, I felt I should help him out. Sighed, I admit, part of the reason I was close to him was to provoke you. But no matter what, we're husband and wife. Everything I did was also to push you to become better." Saying this, Victoria smiled and stepped forward, arms outstretched, wanting to hug me. I pushed her away without hesitation, and handover date is in 1 month. During this time, I need to clean the house properly. And since you're back, figure out how to move your things yourself. Victoria's arms froze mid-air, the smile vanishing from her lips. "Sincere Clark, what do you mean? I already sent Ethan away. I've apologized profusely, and you still want to sell the house? You still want to divorce me?" She looked deeply wronged. But during the previous Cold War, I had even been forced to kneel before her in public just to try and win her back. I didn't speak. Victoria seemed to take my silence for hesitation. She let out a breath and continued, "Only even if you divorce me now, have you thought about what you'll do afterward?" "Melissa, I admit I'm not perfect. But haven't you considered that your next partner might not be as successful as me? What will you do then?" I found it laughable. In her eyes, were love and marriage just transactions to be weighed for pros and cons? I could understand her business mindset, but if that were the case, I couldn't comprehend how, when weighing me against Ethan, I came up short in any aspect. But I didn't ask. There was no point discussing it anymore. Just as I was about to speak, her phone rang. It was someone from the company. "CEO Ashworth, the client just called. They said there are problems with the project assistant Carter submitted. They're furious and demanding we resolve this immediately, or they'll sue us." Six. How is that possible? Ethan's previous proposals were all fine. How could this one? She trailed off mid-sentence, suddenly stopping. She vaguely told the caller to stabilize the situation first, then hung up and looked at me. "Sincere Clark, didn't you review this proposal?" It seemed she remembered now. Previously, after Victoria snatched proposals from me and gave them to Ethan, I always felt uneasy and would meticulously fix Ethan's error-ridden work until it was complete. But every time, Victoria would playfully chide me for meddling, saying Ethan could handle it independently. And when problems inevitably arose, Victoria would blame me, complaining I hadn't checked carefully enough, that I'd missed obvious mistakes. So this time I hadn't even glanced at it. She said Ethan could handle it independently fine. I gave him the chance to prove himself. Oh no. I shook my head. Victoria's brow furrowed tightly. Seeing she was about to lose her temper, I stated calmly, "That was Ethan's job, not my responsibility. I genuinely had no right nor any obligation to interfere." But you're my husband. So what?" I scoffed. "Because I'm your husband, I'm obligated to clean up your messes, endure your yelling and abuse, tolerate your cold shoulders, and stand by while you let everyone bully and mock me? Can't as your husband, I've tolerated you up to this point. I've fulfilled my duties as a husband. But what about you? Have you done anything that befits the title of a wife?" "What do you mean I haven't?" Victoria retorted. "Was it flirting shamelessly with another man? Or was it teaming up with another man to steal my projects? Is that what you mean by doing things?" My attitude was firm, my tone sarcastic. This was a way I had never confronted Victoria before. She seemed stunned, momentarily silenced, unable to form a rebuttal. She bit her lip, hesitating. After several minutes, she composed herself, adopting the stern demeanor of the boss she was at the company. "I don't want to discuss these pointless things with you. Trachwena, whether I'm a qualified wife or not, I'm still your boss. The project is a work matter. You were my employee, so the company's problems are also your problems. And you handle this project issue. Get it resolved within 3 days, otherwise—" She picked up her phone. She started searching for my name in the company's organizational chart, intending to forward the proposal details to me. But after searching for 2 minutes, she still couldn't find it. Her expression grew increasingly grim. Finally, her eyes widened. "Where are you? Why can't I find you in the employee directory?" Her reaction made me laugh. "Have you forgotten? Sinai already resigned. 7. You were the one who approved it, remember?" "Impossible, I don't remember approving your resignation." Victoria's expression turned frantic. She immediately started searching through the resignation request records. I watched her calmly, unsurprised, only finding it pathetic. What could she remember? Besides worrying if Ethan had a place to live, if he was eating well, if he was resting properly, she couldn't recall details about anyone else. She didn't remember my resignation. She didn't remember the pain I felt when she abandoned me. She certainly wouldn't remember how desperately I fought for a project. She wasn't panicking because I left. She was nervous because she realized there was no one left to clean up her mess. Once this crisis passed, she would revert to her usual self. Continue flirting with Ethan. Continue helping him steal my projects. Continue letting everyone humiliate me. At that moment, Victoria finally found my record. Seeing my name listed as the applicant, her eyes widened, and she staggered back a couple of steps. She muttered a curse. "Oh, authorize your resignation. Don't they know about our relationship?" Victoria frantically called the office. Someone answered quickly. Before they could speak, Victoria unleashed a torrent of abuse. "Did you verify this with me? Who gave you the authority to act on your own? But CEO Ashworth, didn't you say before—" "What did I say? Did I tell you to fire him? Don't you know he's my husband? How do you do your job? Can't you tell who your master is anymore? Get out of the company now, don't ever let me see you again." Victoria furiously berated the person on the phone, then turned to me with a placating look. "Then sincere, I honestly didn't expect them to treat you like this. Please come back, okay?" It looked like she was standing up for me. But without her and Ethan's tacit approval, would anyone have dared to treat me that way? These colleagues bullied me, yes, but weren't she and Ethan the ones standing behind them, whispering encouragement in their ears? Seeing my silence, Victoria took out her phone again, promising a high salary to rehire me. I pushed her hand away. "And you should focus on handling your work problems. I'm leaving now. Remember to move your things out before the closing date. Otherwise, if there are penalty fees for breach of contract, I will sue you. And if you get caught up in a lawsuit, it could cause turmoil within the company, making things even worse. So, I advise you to agree to an amicable split." After 5 years of marriage, I really don't want things to get too ugly between us." With that, I ignored her and went back to the bedroom to gather my remaining things. Perhaps my words had an effect. Victoria didn't pursue me further. After standing outside for a few minutes, I heard her footsteps retreating. Paying her no more mind, I finished packing and moved my belongings to the new apartment I had just rented. After resting for 2 days, I started job hunting. I had quit without another job lined up. The claim about switching companies before was a lie. But unexpectedly, within 2 days of posting my resume, a company actually offered me double my previous salary, with benefits far exceeding my expectations. I didn't hesitate. After passing the interview, I immediately signed the contract and started the new job. During this time, the house sale closed smoothly, and a large sum of money was deposited into my bank account. Life became peaceful. No more emotional drain, no more anxiety, no more daily anger over my wife chatting with another man. No more worrying if she'd give away another hard-won project to someone else. Within days, I felt like I had even gained some weight back on my face. But Victoria's life was clearly not going as well as mine. 8. After Ethan revised the proposal 7 or 8 times under duress, the client hadn't exploded yet, but Ethan broke down first. After the final rejection, he publicly smashed his computer in the office. By then, many employees had already submitted their resignations to Victoria. Overwhelmed and furious, Victoria slapped Ethan across the face. Enraged, Ethan stormed out of the company. Afterward, Victoria couldn't reach him no matter how many times she called. Victoria tried to outsource the project, but the client found out. Ultimately, Victoria breached the contract and was sued. The day she received the court summons, Victoria came looking for me again. Thunderstorms raged outside. She stood in the pouring rain, sobbing hysterically, apologizing repeatedly, begging me for one more chance, swearing she would never make the same mistake again. I drew the curtains, put in earplugs, and lay down on my comfortable bed. I felt no pity whatsoever. She was just getting caught in a rainstorm. My 5-year marriage, however, had been one long, damp, miserable season. I assumed if I ignored her, Victoria would eventually leave dejectedly. But incredibly, she was still standing outside my gate when dawn broke the next day. Rain plastered her hair to her cheeks. Her face was pale and bloodless. I'd never seen her look so wretched. I didn't want to see her, but I had to go to work. As expected, the moment I stepped out the door, Victoria rushed towards me, her eyes pleading pitifully. "Don't look at me like that. I won't help you." My tone was final. "I know you're angry with me. I've thought about it all night. I don't expect you to help me anymore, but can you just give me one last chance? Do you remember this?" Victoria held out her hand, palm open. In the center lay a tiny, chipped diamond ring. I paused, my thoughts drifting back. Victoria had loved me once, at the beginning. When we got married, we were broke, couldn't scrape together even 10,000 between us. Other brides had rings with diamonds the size of pigeon eggs. Mine, by comparison, was pitifully small. When we got married, we promised to stick together through thick and thin, no matter what. And said you would love me forever. Seeing a flicker of softening in my eyes, her own lit up with hope. I never did anything to betray you. Ethan and I were never what you imagined. Shinton just felt sorry for him, alone here. But I never had romantic feelings for him. Sincere Clark, what I did isn't as unforgivable as you think. Please, just give me one more chance, she continued, pleading. I reached out and took the diamond ring, but before hope could fully ignite in her eyes, her face turned deathly pale in the next second. 9. I held the ring up to her face, showing her the inscription on the inner band. Someone had engraved words onto the once smooth metal. 2 names, neatly inscribed, Victoria Ethan, just as I expected. I chuckled softly. Victoria tried to argue, but I cut her off. But maybe you didn't cross certain lines physically, but your heart had already strayed. His name seeped into every moment of our lives. Maybe it was you subconsciously ordering his favorite food for me, or maybe it was the things you mumbled in your sleep at night. And if I were to forgive you, I would have to forgive every memory of your betrayal, forgive myself for the agony I went through over and over because of you two. And you would have to endure my suspicion, my mistrust, again and again. Ask yourself honestly, Victoria, could you accept that? Victoria fell silent. She just stood there frozen, her eyes red-rimmed. I believe she already knew the answer in her heart. Let's just end it here, I said softly. Without looking at her again, I turned and walked away. This time, Victoria didn't follow, but I heard sobbing break out behind me, a sound filled with regret and despair. But I knew it wasn't because she truly regretted her actions, only that she hadn't expected such consequences. Even if she could do it all over again, she would still choose the same path. Unsurprisingly, Victoria lost the lawsuit. She was ordered to pay 3 times the deposit amount as compensation, totaling nearly $1 million. The company lacked sufficient liquid cash. Victoria liquidated all her personal savings and sold everything valuable she owned. Still short several $100,000, she reluctantly prepared to sell the small house she had secretly bought. Only when trying to sell it did she discover the name on the deed had been changed. It was now on Ethan Carter. No one was surprised when the news broke. Given how much Victoria had trusted him back then, transferring ownership of a house would have been ridiculously easy. Victoria, you said you were going to give me this house anyway, so I just had it transferred. What's the problem? When Victoria confronted him, Ethan was lounging carelessly on the sofa, eating freshly washed grapes. Orange peels and leftover takeout containers littered the table. He had disappeared for so long, unreachable despite Victoria's calls, only to be hiding here. Victoria was practically exploding with rage. "This house isn't for you, get out. I don't want to see you. That's not for you to decide. My name is on the deed." Ethan waved the deed triumphantly. He smugly assumed his actions were flawless and Victoria could do nothing. Victoria laughed, a choked, furious sound. She turned and went straight to the police station. Presenting proof of purchase, she not only reclaimed the property but ruthlessly pressed charges against Ethan. Unfortunately, Victoria had been so lenient with him over the years that there wasn't enough evidence to make Ethan pay significant compensation. In the end, Ethan was detained for just 15 days and then released. Upon release, an enraged Ethan sought revenge against Victoria, live streaming damaging information about her online. With his handsome face, Ethan quickly became a trending topic. Victoria was exposed for infidelity during her marriage. Under the snowball effect, her reputation plummeted until it was ruined. Business partners were affected, and within a month, the company's cash flow dried up, leading to bankruptcy and liquidation. Finally, Victoria arranged to meet him. No one knows what was said, but the conflict escalated violently. In the end, both of them jumped into a river. Victoria drowned. Ethan was discovered and rescued in time, but his mind was damaged. He became erratic, telling anyone he met that he was a millionaire, sometimes displaying violent tendencies. Eventually, the police had no choice but to commit him to a psychiatric hospital. By the time I heard the news, I had been promoted twice at my new company. I bought a new house nearby, and I had started dating someone new, Chloe Sterling, who didn't care about my past. One day, as we were planning our honeymoon, she suddenly asked me secretively what value a honeymoon held in my heart. I thought for a moment. To those who love each other, it's priceless. But to those who don't, perhaps it's exorbitantly expensive. What will our honeymoon truly be worth? I suppose only time will tell. But despite all the scars, I still believe in the possibility of pure, perfect love. End